sees their role as helping the United States to transition from being the global hegemon to being a normal global power in the way that's least disruptive as possible. And I think that that's smart. That's the way it should be, because you're drawing the friendship and cooperation of those forces in the American political spectrum that are receptive to this message, and you're weakening and alienating the ones who are actually your enemy, who remain loyal to the United States, the global empire, best friends forever with Britain and France, supporters of Ukraine, supporters of Israel, and all this. Obviously, that's never going to be a transition that's going to happen from one day to the next, because Donald Trump or somebody like Donald Trump comes out one day and says, change of direction, we're doing 180 degrees. That can't happen, because they're inside of the United States. There are too many powerful groups that are pulling the opposite direction. So maybe you have to tread that balance very carefully and take that shift very gradually. And all along the way, you probably have to score political victories to make yourself seem more powerful, more credible, more trustworthy, to bolster your own authority. And it seems to me that Trump is doing exactly that. I don't like the way he's doing it, because sometimes he's going with blatant, easily disprovable lies, whereas he could be more subtle about it. Like with the recent thing with the Iranian nuclear program, when he's just absolutely insisting on the word obliterate. Well, that immediately triggers the reaction from the other side, who said, like, no, you never obliterated it. That's not true. You're lying. He could have said, we damaged it severely. We have to investigate. We have to exert pressure on the Iranians to let us go and verify. And maybe you get weeks, maybe months of maneuvering space. That's how British do things, by the way, British diplomacy. They just kind of pour some sand into the works, into the wheels of global diplomacy, and they just give themselves time, and then they maneuver. And they always say, oh, it's very complicated. Oh, it's very risky. We cannot intervene here. We cannot do this because, it's the right thing to do, but, we must proceed cautiously. It's overly risky. It's dangerous. And they always give themselves a lot of time and a lot of maneuvering space. They never never say never, but I don't remember examples where they would go out with a completely obvious patent lie. They just kind of like weave slowly with ambiguous statements, with always calling for calm, avoiding violence, avoiding reprisals, and so on. And they have been very effective like this for centuries. They always do the same thing. I've been paying close attention to the way British diplomacy works. Trump is going with these bombastic statements that just kind of divide people between those who would support him and those who would push the other way. And then what you get is basically a gridlock, which I think it has very, very short shelf life. And the result is, now the Israelis are already preparing their next attack on Israel, on Iran. So, Trump has done all this footwork to say, okay, time out, ceasefire, everybody declare victory, go back to your corners, and the war is over. It's over. Well, now it's not over anymore. Anyway, so that's my, that's my sharp criticism of Trump, although I do tend to believe that he is trying to disentangle the United States from the position of the global hegemon And I think that if he's successful at that, however he finagles it, however he gets to that, it's a better deal for everybody, for the American people and everybody else that has been at the receiving end of the American bludgeon.
Alex, what was the outcome of the meeting between Donald Trump and Netanyahu? I think we have to be realistic about the meeting, because it wasn't Donald Trump going to Israel. Netanyahu is coming to the United States for the third time, fourth time in 6 months, a third time, if I'm not mistaken. And every time he comes, he asks for something. It seems that he's going to stay in the United States and for some days. But do you feel that are we gonna see new attacks on Iran by Israel in the near future? And I would argue, and how do you see, if that's the case, if so, what do they want from these attacks? I don't see anything better than what has happened so far coming out of the conflict between Iran and Israel in favor of Israel. I'm talking about. Israel is not going to get any sort of leverage. They're going to go down if they start a new fight. I think that's obvious. I don't know if Donald Trump is talking about it with Bibi Netanyahu, even with the United States participating, somehow collaborating, helping Israel. Is not going to change the game that much. Your take on that?
No, I agree with everything you said, Nima. I think that they cannot prevail over Iran. So I think that they cannot destroy Iran's nuclear program. I mean, the Iranians are aware. They've seen Israeli attacks on Syria's nuclear program. They've seen the attacks on Iraq's nuclear program. They are certainly aware of Israeli attempts and plans to destroy Pakistan's nuclear program. And they had more than 20 years to prepare for this and to design their nuclear program in the way that is as robust and difficult to destroy as possible, among other things, by dispersing it geographically and by burying it very, very deep underground, so that you can't really destroy it with bombing campaigns. So I think that the plan B and plan C for the West, and in this case Israel is simply a proxy of the Western Empire. Plan B is regime change, which now looks unrealistic as well. Plan C is to try to partition Iran. And so I think this is why they activated Azerbaijan and Turkey. And it seems to me that by antagonizing Iran, the risk in partitioning Iran would be that they carve away the northwest, the South Azerbaijan, right, which is the northwest region of Iran. And if they succeeded at this by using Azerbaijan as their proxy, by probably funding and organizing separatist movements inside Iraq and using I don't know, MEK or even the Kurds and the Syrian jihadis, they could cut Iran from the Caspian Sea coastline. And if they achieve that, well, then they cut off the north-south trade corridor. And now they've put a major spanner into China's Belt and Road Initiative. And I think that this is the reason why China and Iran are now rushing the program to provide Chinese JC-10 jets to Iran. These jets have been battle tested now in the war between India and Pakistan in May of this year, early May. You remember there was I think it was at the end of April, there was terror attack in Kashmir, and there were some 25, 26 civilians killed by Pakistani extremists, right? And then on the night of the 6th to 7th May, India mounted an air attack against Pakistani military targets as a how do you call it? As a retaliation. Now, the interesting aspect of this, which is extremely important in this whole equation, is that the Indians, a few years ago, the Indians have purchased a fleet of, I think, 36 French Rafale jets. And the contract was worth $9 billion, which I think works out to about $250 billion per aircraft. So extremely expensive. And India's objective in this was to achieve air primacy over Pakistan. This was extremely important. So this was a major purchase. And it was, I think, one of the first such contracts where India shifts from using Russian arms to using Western-produced arms. And it turned out to be a very bad idea, because what happened is that Pakistan under Imran Khan reoriented Pakistan towards Chinese arm manufacturers, among other things, these Chinese JC-10 jets, J-10C jets. And so here's what happened on the night of the 6th to 7th May. India launched 6 aircraft to strike at Pakistani military targets. And at least 4 of these aircrafts were the French Rafale jets. And okay, so Pakistanis, in addition to having these Chinese J-10C jet fighters, also have use Chinese radars and Chinese satellite intelligence. And so they immediately knew that the attack was coming. And so they scrambled. I couldn't find out whether it was one Chinese jet or more, but this Chinese jet can carry 9 missiles, and they launched it with 6 air-to-air missiles, right? The jet itself has a powerful radar that can spot targets at over 200 kilometers distance, and they can lock simultaneously up to 16 individual targets. Well, at 200 kilometers, they locked onto these Indian jets. From 150 kilometers, they launched their 6, I think they're called PL-15 air-to-air missiles, Chinese again, and they downed all 6 jets that the Indians launched. This took